Arsenal's second defeat of the season. Let's take a look then at the top of the table. Liverpool now 1 point clear of Arsenal. Villa are now just 2 points adrift to the top spot with that win. Manchester City are in action on Sunday, of course, as they take on Luton. But even a victory for Pep Guardiola's side will still see him 4 points adrift of Liverpool at the top. For Villa, Craig, this is a very different victory to the one that we saw midweek against Manchester City.
Yeah, they struggled. They didn't pose the same threat in this game after that initial goal that they did against City. It seemed in the City game they went for City, whereas here Arsenal took a bit of control as the first half went on in terms of their possession, and it just, we were saying before the show, it just felt the more possession Arsenal got, the higher that back four squeezed up of Aston Villa. And Arsenal sort of figured that out, and they started floating the ball in behind Konza for Martinelli. And you felt it was only going to be a matter of time, but look, we could talk about Postecoglou and others, but it's hard to argue anybody with the resources that he's had has done a better job in a 12-month period than Unai Emery. We've talked about Man United right at the top of the show today, about players who are probably going to throw this manager under the bus. This is players that are playing for their manager. Yeah. And that, you can see it. And
they've made Villa Park a fortress, Stevie, which of course has been a major part of the success. They've had 15 straight victories.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean,
they've only conceded 7 goals as well.
It's a place that makes a lot of noise.
Right.
When they want to, and when the team's playing in a certain way that gets them going. And there's no question, Unai Emery, he's got them playing with a heart, he's got them organised, they know what they're doing, they look as though they're enjoying themselves. I mean, every single thing that's good about playing in a team that's doing well is happening at Aston Villa. And they showed today that they can do it 2 ways. You know, yes, 22 shots against Man City was all-out attacking football. Today, after their initial 20-minute burst, where they took all that energy from the City game and the crowd and everything else, after that, it was about defensive duties, pretty much for me. I thought Arsenal, probably for at least an hour, just were the team that was pushing. But Villa, with their organisation, with their grit, with the spirit, with the heart, with quality, I mean, Pau Torres, for me, looked as though he was just cruising.
So having said that, obviously as good as defensively Arsenal were, where was that extra little spark? Villa. Where was that little spark from Arsenal in the final third today?
Well, it wasn't there today. Final ball, 10, 15-yard passes, getting passed out of play, overhit for goal kicks, Saka whiffing at the back post, Odegaard coming onto a ball that was laid back perfectly to him in the first half, and just didn't want to take it on his weak right foot, and he's tried to shuffle it on the left foot, and then there's a weak shot, and Emi Martinez throws his hat on it. It just wasn't there for them today, and I don't really think there's any excuses. It was a scrappy game, but I don't think Arsenal deserved anything out of it, if I'm being quite honest with you. And we go back briefly to Villa. We talked about Villa and Tottenham recently as two clubs with kind of new managers that are superseding expectations, certainly Villa. And Stevie's right. Villa are a bit of a hybrid. They can do it both ways. They'll fight and they'll scrap. They can sit in and defend, or they can go toe-to-toe, as they did with Man City. And that's just a great armoury for them to have at the moment, to know that we've got 2 or 3 different ways we can play that we know we can get results. And look, it was there for Arsenal. There was space in behind for the pace of Martinelli and Saka. They didn't use it. Gabriel Jesus didn't have a great game. And I think one of the big questions is for Arsenal, if they're going to go all the way in this title race and it looks tight, will they go out and spend in January? Because they certainly look as if they need some backup in that forward department.
I'll tell you what, they need a centre forward.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember sitting thinking, where's Jesus? I mean, he completely... And I'm talking about an Arsenal side who I thought were dominated, particularly the second half. It was all about defence for Villa. But we never saw Jesus. He won any game the second half. You can't win the Premier League title with a man down. Let's put it that way, with a man down. Because Jesus did absolutely nothing to help his team. And when you've got to break down a tight defence that's on top of the game, you've got to produce. And he, never mind didn't produce, he disappeared.
Speaking of winning the title, let's take a look at the odds then, shall we? As it stands, Manchester City still favourites to defend their title, but it's going to be a really good race, certainly for us neutrals, isn't it? City odds-on favourites, Liverpool then at 3-1, Arsenal at 13-4, so Liverpool now second favourites, just ahead of Arsenal. Aston Villa, meanwhile, coming in at 16-1.
But it was everybody else's fault again in the Arsenal game, was it not?
Well, yes, Arteta refused to talk about the referee.
Well, he thinks the ball coming off, one of his players' arms 2 yards from the goal, and it
doesn't count.
it just seems to me that he has a bee in his bonnet since this Newcastle games with the officials, and I think we're not talking. Thankfully, we're not talking about David Raya today, because he really didn't have much to do, because it wasn't the Villa, as you mentioned, that we saw against Man City. But the other facets of his team that have actually worked pretty well for him didn't operate particularly well today. So you cannot keep looking round to the referees. The referee today, I thought, in that game was pretty fair, did a decent job.
Percentage chance Liverpool win the league, Stevie?
I don't think there's anything between. I really don't. I still think it's between Liverpool, Arsenal, and City.
So we're 33, 33, 33.
I think it's difficult to separate them.
Right.
I think absolutely between now and May, whatever date it is, there are going to be results and games and performances like we saw today.
Right.
Absolutely. Because City are not at it. Liverpool have got their own problems, and Arsenal going forward. We've just said I think it needed a centre forward. So yeah, I don't think you can. I really don't think you can separate the three of them.
I'm a little bit still in City camp.
You think City are going to go on a run? Yeah, one of the runs that we've seen.
I just think until somebody does otherwise, I'm still in City's camp. Until somebody puts their hand up and wins this league, they've got De Bruyne to come back. They've got other players to come back. They'll fix their problems. They've done it before. I'm then slightly in the Arsenal camp, and then Liverpool are third. When it's Liverpool today, Roy Hodgson was at 1 draw and 4 losses in the last 5 games, whereas, Arsenal, they didn't play great, but they went to probably the informed team in the Premier League. And you've just seen the graphic at Villa Park. 15 wins, 7 goals. So there's no doubt who the biggest task in the Premier League had today, and it was Arsenal.